Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining America's Promise Alliance and the Grad Nation campaign. We are pleased to present the Achieving a 90% Graduation Rate, Making Effective Work-Based Learning Real for All Students webinar. Before we begin, we want to note a few ground rules. Due to the volume of participants today, everyone has been muted. At any time during the presentation, you can use the questions panel to write and submit your questions. We will try to take as many questions as possible following the presentation. We invite you to join the conversation on Twitter by using the hashtag GradNation during and after the presentation. This webinar is being recorded. A link will be shared in the coming days on the Grad Nation website. Finally, we encourage all participants to take a 2 to 3 minute survey immediately following today's webinar. This survey information will help us better understand who you are, whether this webinar was valuable to you and your work, and what topics you'd like to see covered during your future Grad Nation learning sessions. We will now get started and the recording will begin. Thank you for joining us. My name is Nevasia Noble, Manager on the Strategic Initiatives and Partnerships team here at America's Promise Alliance. Before we get started, we will share an overview of the national factors that come together to tell us that the work of an urban alliance is needed. Then we will transition to a moderated youth panel discussion to learn from two amazing youth who have participated and have benefited from the Urban Alliance program. After the youth panel, the audience will have the opportunity to ask the youth questions. So during the discussion, please don't forget to submit your questions via the question function. With the youth perspective in mind, we will then turn to Urban Alliance to see how this nonprofit organization is working with schools and businesses to provide high school students with real-life work experience that will better prepare them for life after high school. You will hear from Daniel Sin, Chief Impact Officer, Lauren Rice, Monitoring and Evaluation Manager, and Sahan Sozaman, DZ Program Director, all of whom will dive deeper into the Urban Alliance approach that teaches professional soft skills to high school students, the resources, partnerships, and capacities needed to implement their model, and the data that speaks to their success. Following the Urban Alliance presentation, we will then give the audience another opportunity to ask questions. Please notice that we will have 2 question and answer periods, one for the youth panel and one for the presenters. So if you have a question, please be sure to submit your questions via the questions function. We will collect questions throughout the panel presentation and ask them during both sets of question and answer periods. America's Promise Alliance has led the Grad Nation campaign for nearly 10 years. In that time, we have seen the graduation rate climb from the 70s to a 2017 rate of 84.6%. Our action platform aims to get at the practices that contribute to an increasing graduation rate by reflecting the experiences and expertise of nonprofit, school district, and classroom leaders who are working to improve graduation and life outcomes for young people. For today's webinar, we are focused on the Pathways Action Platform. This item brings attention to ways that we can connect the high school experience with pathways to post-secondary education, workforce readiness and participation, and overall adult success. One way to connect the high school experience with pathways after high school is through experiential learning. Research has shown that providing students with opportunities to learn by doing has a positive impact on student outcomes, including increasing intrinsic motivation to learn, promoting reflection, and associating positive emotions with learning. Although there is research that explains the benefits of work-based learning, it is not always an easy task, given that capacity and resources can constrain traditional high schools from connecting youth with opportunities to gain real-world work experiences and job training skills. By resources, we are referring not only to dollars, but people and time. Work-based opportunities are often not readily accessible to students without personal connections, which further perpetuates the inequities in education and the workforce. Organizations such as Urban Alliance has made strides in helping schools close these equity, capacity, and resource gaps. They do this by working closely with high schools and businesses to provide high school seniors with professional development training, a 10-month paid internship, one-on-one mentoring, and ongoing post-high school support. Their commitment to equity shows up through the communities and schools with which they partner. Before we learn more about Urban Alliance's approach to work-based learning, we want to take a few minutes to outline why work-based learning is so important. According to the Business Roundtable, the skills gap is real and continues to grow. The skills gap makes it difficult for businesses to find employees with foundational knowledge and skills training needed for open positions. To be more specific, many high school and college graduates lack the foundational skills needed in the 21st century workplace. When employers can't find workers that have the specific skills they are looking for, unemployment rates are oftentimes impacted and economic growth is hindered. The National Association of College and Employers surveyed employers in their Job Outlook 2018 survey. They asked which attributes beyond GPA they most value. The ones that rose to the top were being able to problem solve, communicating effectively, written and verbally, to work in a team, and analytical skills. These skills are precisely the kinds of skills that young people can practice in work-based learning opportunities. These opportunities can offer students a chance to learn, enhance, and demonstrate the very skills that the business field says students are lacking. In a work-based experience, young people can explore future career fields and reinforce and deepen their classroom learning. In turn, these types of programs can help to close the workplace skills gap and successfully connect the high school experience to post-secondary pathways. A recent report on the power and potential of social, emotional, and academic development from a nation at risk to a nation at hope states that 8 out of 10 employers say social and emotional skills are the most important to success, yet are also the hardest skills to find. Some of the skills that employers mention as most valued among future employees are referred to as soft skills, but they can also be referred to as life skills or social, emotional, and academic skills. Brain science and practice are combining to bring greater clarity to the idea that learning happens in a way that is not purely academic, but in a way that has social and emotional dimensions as well. Young people are better prepared and more engaged when the social, emotional, and academic aspects of learning come together. The different components of social, emotional, and academic learning are outlined in the diagram presented on this slide. It includes teaching students things like how to effectively connect with others, make responsible decisions, practice self-awareness skills, think critically, work in teams, amongst other skills. All of these skills align with the 21st century skills that employers say students do not have. Work-based learning teaches these exact skills. And today, we will hear from Urban Alliance, a nonprofit organization that partners with schools and businesses to provide historically underserved students with the opportunity to teach, enhance, and practice these skills. Now we're going to go into our youth panel. I will pass it over to my colleague on the Grad Nation campaign team, Monica Kenchelo, who will be facilitating this panel.
Thanks, Navesha. At this time, I want to invite our youth panel to turn their webcam on. So Selena and James, if you can show your faces to our audience.
Hi, is everyone?
All right, as they start to join, I want to introduce and welcome Selena Yemen and James West, who are joining us on the webinar today, and we will see them shortly, I'm sure. I'm thrilled that they were able to join. Selena and James are both alumni of the Urban Alliance program, so they attended or participated, the Urban Alliance program while in high school, and Selena is now at Prince George's Community College, and James is a recent graduate of Marymount. I'm just pausing as we check to make sure that we can see you.
Yes.
Selena and James? Yeah, sir. We can't see you. We can hear you, though, which is great. Halfway there.
Okay.
There we go.
Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
How are you?
Oh. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you
How
for
are you
having
doing?
Having us.
Great. Well, we're going to dive right in, and as we discussed, we'll sort of pose a few questions, but really encourage this to be a discussion, and Navesha's here. She's going to keep me honest on time because we want to make sure we have some time for audience questions. So I want to just, again, encourage everyone in the audience, if you have a question for Selena or James, to please enter it in the question part of the tab to the side of your GoToWebinar, and we will collect those questions and make sure we have time for them. So Selena and James, I leave it to you who starts first with this question, but I'm curious if you think, as you think back to your high school years, how did you hear about Urban Alliance and why did you decide to apply?
I can start. So me personally, I found out about Urban Alliance through a friend who was also in the program. He was a senior at the time when I was a junior in high school, and he told me about the program, about the relationships, and about the work experience he was able to get while he was in the program. And this is what made me first think about the program, but actually going and joining the program was from one of the PCs actually coming to my school and talking to me about the program, plus the person who I was friends with telling me about the program.
So for me, I heard about Urban Alliance through my counselor because her and I were very close, and we knew that I was very so I was a very shy student, and so she knew that I needed preparation, and she knew that Urban Alliance was something that would fully benefit me. And so that's what really inspired me to apply. But what really was intriguing for me was the wide range of internships that was offered and the networking opportunity that Urban Alliance offered me through the professional I was working with through the internships.
Thanks. That's really helpful. I'm always curious how high schoolers get connected with opportunities like this. So, Selena, you already started to touch on some of the incredible opportunities that a young person can have with Urban Alliance. And when you think back to that time, what was your overall experience, and how did it kind of influence your memory or experience of high school?
So Urban Alliance was like the main highlight for my high school experience because, like I said, I was very shy, so I didn't really put myself out there. But with Urban Alliance, my program coordinator was really was the person who really pushed me to be more open and to explore different options, explore different opportunities. She was able to push me to do more than just work and go to school. I was able to balance my work and school life. So that was my overall experience. It was the main highlight for my high school experience.
For myself, I think senior year, around that time, I was a good student. So for me, I wanted to have a program that allowed me to not only enhance my skills as far as my education, but also my tactile skills and working in the workforce or working with communities that I had never worked for, whether that be, in the professional development setting or in an actual work-based setting. And for me, it increased and enhanced my high school experience by allowing me to connect with not only students from my high school, but students from across the entire DC region who were looking to go to college soon, to create those connections and find people who are also very much motivated.
That's amazing. What were your work experiences or internship experience? Like, where were you and what were you doing?
Myself, I went through 3 internship opportunities. So I went through the World Bank, which was my very first internship opportunity, the Corporate Executive Board, which is now Gardner Inc., and then the Department of Justice Office of Youth Programs.
So I started off my senior year working at the Patent and Trademark Office, and I started off in the Human Resource Department, and then I went into the Global Affairs Department, and then I went into Education and Outreach. I kind of went and tried to experience the whole entire department or the whole entire office and get a feel of what exactly they do, because they don't just do one thing, and that's something that I felt like Urban Alliance really helped me understand, was that these organizations really help you see that there's more out there than just the careers that are taught or explained to you in a regular school setting. But that's where I was at senior year, and then when I graduated last year, I went to and interned at the National Minority Quality Forum, which is in DC, and that was a very fun experience for me too, and that also just sheds a light on how like Urban Alliance stays with you even when you graduate. They continuously give you opportunities. So that's where I was. That's where I last was.
I'm definitely curious to hear more about that post high school piece, but I want to go a little bit further back in time. You all participated in pre-employment workshops before you started your jobs and learned a whole bunch of skills there. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your experience with those workshops and what are some of the skills that you learned there that were later helpful to you in, like job interviews and then in the workplace.
For me, like I said before, I am pretty shy. So the one thing that I learned a lot was about eye contact and body language while in an interview and just speaking in front of anyone. I was able to kind of learn how to put myself out there and try to work on those skills so that when I am in front of anyone, whether it be a one-on-one interview or speaking in front of audience, I am able to like feel comfortable and find that comfort in whatever I do.
I think for me,
awesome.
Two of the biggest things that I took away from pre-work were the emails and then learning conversation cues as well as initiative. So emails are, something that you send out all the time, but coming out of high school and going directly into a work-based experience, you didn't really know too much about, the header for your email, the title for your email, the subject for your email, and then the ending for your email is like, and having all of those things really be, this is how you communicate at each level with somebody, whether they be the same age as you, whether they be the CEO of the company. And I feel like that is a great skill that you can take with you everywhere because you need that going into college, you need that going into the workforce, and you need that having that at any level if you want to be an entrepreneur. For me, the participation and initiative thing was very big as well because they taught us not to just be scared to talk to people in your office, but be able to talk to people in different departments because you never know the opportunities they might have for you, not only as an intern, but as a young individual looking to learn something. Because if you can talk to a person, if you can ask them, okay, I want to learn about what you do from this, from this perspective, how do you get that relationship to be ongoing? You have to send out an email to say, okay, I like that we had this conversation now. How do I keep this relationship ongoing? How do I learn more in every position that I'm in?
Thanks. Those were so specific and powerful. I think what they do is show the combination of really practical skills. Like Selena, when you were talking about eye contact, I thought that was so important because for some of us, making eye contact with strangers or with people who are kind of like above us, it can feel a little tricky and difficult. So it's pretty cool that you were in high school and got that confidence boost that no, eye contact is actually a really important component of operating in the workplace. And then, James, I can't help but say I've been in the workforce for over 10 years and people still struggle to write emails. So wow, wouldn't that have been cool if I had that even in high school? And it seems like all of this comes together to really help your ability to navigate social situations, to demonstrate your own agency and be your own advocate for yourself in the workplace and as you kind of navigate the interview process, which are just incredible social and emotional skill sets to have at a pretty young age. So I wanted to shift gears a little bit. I know you already mentioned this a little bit, but that piece of support after high school, what does that look like? What does that feel like for you since you've left high school, at least for a year or two or more?
As you stated earlier, I recently finished at Marymount, and that is, 4 years removed from high school. The biggest impact that Urban Alliance had that I can say is we always have these Alumni Advisors who are willing to reach out to you, whether you need scholarship opportunities or you're looking for volunteer opportunities to get more, community service hours. If you need small jobs to do while you're in school so you can have funds, I would say that is the greatest thing that Urban Alliance could do for somebody that has finished college, because sometimes people feel like they no longer have that connection or they no longer need to keep that connection. But Urban Alliance, they both keep in contact as far as, like you said, the social status of where a person is in life, but also if they can find internship opportunities and job and work opportunities once you finish the program. That's like literally one of the greatest things that could have came out of Urban Alliance, and really building that relationship and having that relationship once you finish high school.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I said, I benefited so much during my high school experience, but I really got so much out of Urban Alliance even after, because like I said, last year I got an internship in DC through Urban Alliance, but it was because I was able to be so close to my program coordinators and alumni director, and I was able to be a part of the board of alumni board in Northern Virginia, the Northern Virginia location. It was just, I was able to really stay and keep that communication with all of the directors, because they kept it comfortable, they kept it personal. Like they made sure that you were not just alone as soon as you leave high school. And we even got like the monthly emails of, just like you said, all of the opportunities that they offered in the emails, just to know that they are continuously trying to give you these opportunities. It's rewarding almost, like, because you don't see that so often. You won't get an email every month about everything that's out there. Like they literally search up everything that you want in terms of careers and opportunities that you may want. They're offering it to you. Yeah.
And the one thing I don't think that most of the people think about when they think about Urban Alliance is the social support that students can get, because sometimes there are situations where people don't feel like they can talk to their family, but they will feel very much entitled or very much inclined to talk to their PC, somebody who they know can kind of help them navigate a situation. Whereas I don't have housing, but I'm about to go away to school. Can I find you social service support where you're going to school at, or can I find you scholarships that might help you get that while you're home? And I feel like that's one of the greatest things, because not only is it academic, but it shows Urban Alliance commitment back to the community. So
that's incredible. And Selena and James, your words are actually really generating a lot of questions about the Urban Alliance program, which I think is a testament to how powerful what you're saying is, because people want to know, what's this program that's producing such energy in you two? So thank you for that. I want to encourage our audience to pose questions to Selena and James about their experience, about anything that you are hearing them say that spurs a follow-on question. I'm going to pose two more questions before we shift to the audience questions. Both of you have already spoken really beautifully about the power of relationships, whether it's the school counselor, Selena, that connected you to the program, or whether it's you're using an acronym, I'm not totally sure what it stands for, PC?
Program coordinator.
Program coordinator, thank you. So, or if it's your program coordinator who can connect you with those social supports. I know that mentors are also a big part of the Urban Alliance experience. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the role that the mentors played in your experience and how they contributed to your success in high school and afterwards.
So I felt I had a couple mentors during my experience, because like I said, I was able to branch out and not just work in one department. So my mentors, they really took the time out of their working hours to give me as much work that they took their time to really sort out what seems beneficial and what is going to be beneficial for my career goals, and also for what I'm majoring in college. And they took that into account. They sat me down and really got in depth into what I wanted to do in life and how I wanted to do it, what path I wanted to take. And they took it seriously, and in terms of like what assignments they were giving me, what tasks they were giving me. And with that, like it proved to me that they were really dedicated to seeing me improve my skills, and they were trying to take the time to see what could really push me further and kind of not limit me from just basic intern work or basic administration work that sometimes are given to interns. They really took their time to really put me out there and try new things.
I think my experience is very similar to Selena's. So I had 3 mentors, and I've had 2 PCs since I've been in the Urban Alliance, and on both ends, on the partnership end, as far as having a mentor who understands the Urban Alliance program and understands what is supposed to be brought to the table. I think that was very great. So all of my mentors within, Department of Justice, Corporate Executive Board, and the World Bank, they were all people who felt like, they had some type of stake in the experience that I would have. So first, getting to know me, getting to know, my interests, my experience, and what do I want to do later on in life, but also getting to know me as a person. So whether it be, okay, James, are you going to be late anytime this week? Let me know why would you be late? But also doubling down on those same things that we learned, those hard skills and soft skills, because people they won't always give you that leniency when it comes to working in a work-based environment. So they might tell you, okay, James, we love that you do this well. This is how you can improve on that. Or we love that you have done this well. If you would like to improve on that, we can send you to a session. They didn't just treat me as an intern. They treated me as like I was going to be an employee eventually. Exactly. They knew that I would be, somewhere, I would have a stake in somebody's company, a stake in somebody's community. So they always treated me with the quality and the professionalism of, you're going to eventually be in the same role as me. And how can we get you to that point as an intern?
Really powerful. Thank you. I'm going to pose one last question before we go to the audience questions. So I'm going to ask you to answer, frankly and honestly, but briefly, because we do have a bunch of questions from the audience. So now that you are alums of the program, how has the Urban Alliance experience, between the training and the internship experience, prepared you for the work you're doing now?
Wow. So myself, I work in community organizing and regenerative reconciliation. And that's largely focused on literally building the community out and making sure they have the resources in order to provide for themselves before just looking at the government resources that will come to them. And I say Urban Alliance greatly impacted my journey, and not only my journey, but why I decided to take the steps that I took. So following my World Bank internship, or prior to my World Bank internship, I didn't know too much about economics, and I didn't know the impact that economics could have on the world, and not just from the analytical point, but from the investment, from the development, economic development, and things like that. And once I had that experience, I took that with me to college. I majored in economics, and once I majored in economics, I wanted to see how I could impact my community and not only work for a company. And that was largely because of Urban Alliance, because I saw the people in Urban Alliance that wanted to work within the community, work with the students, and they had such a strong passion for working with students and making sure that they had the skills needed in order to achieve outside of their communities. And for me, I think I still have that same goal. I want to see people that come from communities that are impoverished, under-resourced, and largely detrimentally affected by things that are not in their control. I want to see those people uplift themselves, or they say pull up by their bootstraps. More so, how can we give them more bootstraps to pull up from? And I do think that all comes from Urban Alliance at some level.
Yeah. I decided to major in business administration because of Urban Alliance, because I saw how much dedication that the program coordinators had and the mentors, just to see us grow and to be a better student, and to see us outside of in the workforce be the best person that we can be. And so that made me really want to work in nonprofits, but start off with younger students. So last year I decided to work at a nonprofit called Higher Achievement, working with middle school students. And that was really what made Urban Alliance was what influenced me to work in that program, and made me decide I want to find a career or eventually open my own nonprofit that would benefit younger students. And that's really the role that youve or Urban Alliance played in terms of how I wanted to take my career and what path I wanted to take. But yeah.
So powerful. I can't thank you enough both for for engaging in this dialogue and for your really thoughtful reflections on your high school experience. And it's very powerful to see how it impacted your life after high school. So we're going to shift gears a little bit to some audience questions. You beautifully answered some of them actually in this last exchange. So I'm going to shift to a question about cultural challenges. Sometimes, as you know, we enter the workplace and we interact with people who may not look like us or have the same backgrounds. So I wonder if you could speak a little bit to any experience or how you navigated any cultural challenges in the workplace or through the Urban Alliance programming generally.
For me, cultural challenges, do you mean as far as interact diversity inside of organization? Is that what you're asking? Like, how do I deal with that and not coming from a place that was as diverse?
Sure, I think that's a great way to tackle this question.
Okay, for me, I think the biggest thing was, so majority of the leadership that I met, obviously, well, not going to say obviously, majority of the leadership that I met coming into my role, you didn't see too many African Americans, but the ones who were African American, they made sure that you knew that you held a stake in it, in your internship, the same way you held a stake anywhere you went. Your story, your narrative, all of that was important, and they made sure that that once you got to the workforce, that you didn't feel like you should be alienated based on what you look like. It was more so, what's your goal, what's your mission, and how can you work with everybody to complete that goal and that mission? Because in an organization, it's not just HR, it's HR, IT. It's going to be, your accounting people. How do all of these people play a role in a company that's not just based on what they look like and what they do? It's who, their goal to achieve things at the end of the day. And that's how I always looked at it. If somebody has a goal to achieve and a goal to bring out better, that should be the only thing that I look at. Of course, there are things that you see as far as cultural differences, appearance differences that might put you at a halt. But if you have that want to bring change and bring up in betterment to an organization, then that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree. My peers, I worked pretty diversely. I feel like I had like a pretty diverse peer group when I was graduating my senior year. And so my program coordinator kind of made sure we took pride in wherever we came from, and to wherever we go in the workforce, see how well, for me personally, I incorporated my culture and what I believed in into my workforce, and I saw like how can I represent who I am in the workforce, and I did that through different tasks that they were giving me. I was able to talk about where I'm from and talk about what I experienced through my culture. And UA or Urban Alliance really helped me take pride in that and let me know like I am also one of everybody else. So that's really what happened. Yeah.
Thank you. That's really good perspective for everyone. Selena, you mentioned that you had a role as an Alumni Ambassador.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Could you talk a little bit more about sort of what you did in that role, what that looked like?
So we just attended monthly meetings, and so I stopped because I needed to focus on school. But while I was in the alumni board, the board of directors, I was able to just go into monthly meetings and basically talk about how we could reach out to alumni and let them know like to come back and let them know that we have services available, internships available, reaching out and being able to allow them to come to or inviting them into the alumni events so that they can network, and they were able to start specific things like applying for FAFSA and things like that. I was able to take the initiative to reach out to the alumni from various years and inform them about all the opportunities that Urban Alliance has outside of that year of internships and that senior year that we have. That I was able to show that we have more programs and more opportunities available after you graduate.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, James, were you going to say something?
So I served on the alumni board in DC as well, and I saw that as my service back to Urban Alliance. That was since I had been through the program, I had took each step with the high school internship program and the alumni internship program. For me, being on the alumni board was really like, okay, this is your due diligence that you must give back in order to. For me, it was not even from Urban Alliance, but for myself because I understand, how they had done their jobs and how they had pushed for me to go so far in my career or in my high school or in my college education. So I just came back and I was on the fundraising board for most of the events that we were going to host as far as having alumni come back. But yeah, I think it was a very similar experience by being able to see years and years of UA alumni, Urban Alliance alumni, and see how we could still connect with them and help them connect back with Urban Alliance at the end of the day.
That's amazing. Thank you. So this is our last question from the audience, and then we're going to shift to the general presentation so we can learn more about the program. So this is a question about the pre and post workshops that you attended as part of the Urban Alliance program. And you sort of said that Urban Alliance was one of the highlights of high school, but could you say a little bit about what was different about those workshops and these interactions? Like, what was the gap it filled that the rest of your high school experience maybe wasn't giving you?
Well, I felt like the lessons and the things or the skills that we were taught, I could apply day to day to my day-to-day life, and I was able to even learn about budgeting and things like budgeting and time management, something that I didn't really have in my mind or thought too hard on in high school because I didn't have a job during my high school year. That was my internship was my first job. So it was very different for me, but through Urban Alliance, the workshops were able to teach me how to balance school and work and how to like when I'm struggling or when I feel overwhelmed, what are the skills or how I can really like calm myself down and balance the two so that I am not overwhelmed.
Can you ask the question one more time?
Basically, for those pre and post workshops that you participated in, how were they different? What did they provide for you that was different than your regular high school experience?
So for me, I think it was the skills of what do you need once you finish high school. That's what the pre and post workshop offered to me. So like Selena said, she talked about budgeting and savings, having a savings account. Like those are things that Urban Alliance don't tell you that they do. They help you set up banking and savings account and tell you, okay, you need to put a certain amount from each check into your savings account. And until you really get into working, you don't think about the small mishaps that might happen. You get into a car accident and you don't have money on the back end to support yourself. Things like I talked about, the professional dress and the email and ethics. You wouldn't have those just from going to school because those are not things that schools teach you. Mm-hmm. Schools teach you, the skills to become either a better student or to become a better person within the workforce. But I don't think they actually give you the soft and hard skills to be successful and to really find that initiative once you get there and really support yourself once you get there.
That is a powerful call to action for a lot of people listening in. Thank you. I can't thank you enough, both Selena and James, for being here with us today and sharing with us your experience with Urban Alliance. Thank you so much, and good luck in life after college and life in college.
So much.
Take care. All right, we're going to switch gears. I'm going to change it back over. We're going to hand it over to the team at Urban Alliance to share many more details about this program that you just heard about from Selena and James. And I'm not sure who's speaking first, so we'll hand it over.
Okay, well, I have no idea, guys, how we're going to follow that. And we should have went first. I mean, they were incredible. Selena, James, thank you so much for doing it. I kind of want to call for like a round of applause. I know that no one else can hear it, but maybe we should just do it. They were so good. James, congratulations on finishing school. Selena, I loved how you kept on saying how shy you were. I don't think you can get away with saying that any longer. Anyway, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. Thanks for America's Promise for having us. My name is Dan Sin, and I'm the Chief Impact Officer at Urban Alliance. And I'm joined here by my colleagues, Han and Laura. Lauren, say hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren. I'm the Monitoring and Evaluation Manager here at Urban Alliance.
Hey, everyone. My name is Sahan Sozamenin. I'm the Program Director here for Urban Alliance's DC region. And actually, just to preface where I'm coming from a little bit, I am a former high school teacher and had at my previous organization have hired 2 Urban Alliance interns before. So I'm bringing a little bit of a different perspective today.
Yeah, you're well-rounded in this conversation.
I hope so.
There we go. I'm trying to get the clicking to work. Okay, so at its core, who are we? Urban Alliance is a youth development nonprofit. And as you'll see through this talk and every way that we present ourselves, we take data and evidence really seriously. And so this number that you see in front of you is a bit of a North Star for me. Today, millions of young people are not connected to school and work. And I think it's easy to see a total like this and assume that it only consists of high school dropouts, but it doesn't. A large percentage of this total have high school degrees. So while increasing graduation rates should continue to be a priority for all of us, we also need to focus on transitioning young people from high school to post-secondary life. At Urban Alliance, we use work-based learning and workforce development to help young people transition into adulthood and onto a pathway that can lead to economic self-sufficiency. Our theory of change rests on these 3 pillars: targeted employability skills training, mentoring from caring adults, and real-world professional experience. Lauren, our eval guru, thank you for joining us. You've come out today from behind your spreadsheets. Give us a sense of scale.
Sure. So Urban Alliance was founded in 1996 with 6 young people from Anacostia Senior High School in Southeast DC. And Urban Alliance has really grown significantly in the past 23 years. This year, we've placed almost 500 students in internships from over 70 schools in DC, Baltimore, Northern Virginia, Chicago, and Detroit. And our interns are working in offices at almost 200 job partners, and these include nonprofits, for-profits, government agencies, and spanning a wide range of industries as well. Some of our interns are working actually in some really cool organizations like Hilton Worldwide, Bank of America, Quicken Loans, the Obama Foundation, LinkedIn, Coca-Cola, and as Selena mentioned, the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And overall, to date, we have provided internships to almost 5,000 young people and career training to over 20,000.
Awesome. Oh my God, that is so many. So we run a few different models here, right, Lauren? But today we're going to focus on our most comprehensive one, the high school internship program. Sahan, can you give us a snapshot of what that means? What goes into our high school internship program?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Dan. Before I get into our high school internship program structure, I would love to dive into who our students actually are. One of our partner principals once shared with me that due to capacity, his counselors and administrators are forced to primarily focus on the 2 poles of any given class. He explained that he needed to ensure that their high GPA students get to college while also ensuring his students towards the bottom of their class graduate. The middle group is where he saw the need for partnering nonprofits, and that is exactly where Urban Alliance comes into play. Most of our students fall into the middle of their class and may be unsure about their next steps, and they might lack the attention in the school building that they need due to the school's capacity. Our goal is that every student leaves us with some sort of post-graduation plan towards economic self-sufficiency. We do not stress any particular route for a young person, whether it be a 4-year college, 2-year college, apprenticeship, military, or directly joining the workforce. We just want to ensure a plan is in place. So how do we attempt to create these plans with a young person? Let's dive into our main program model. Our high school internship program, as Lauren introduced, is our flagship program that began right here in Southeast DC 23 years ago. High school students are recruited during the spring of their junior year and join us in September of their senior year for a pre-internship boot camp. We call this daily 6-week boot camp pre-work, and this is where the students receive the bulk of our workforce development curriculum. During this time, students learn vital on-the-job skills necessary for them to be able to contribute at work from day one. But more importantly, this is where we focus on important soft skills such as code switching, appropriate communication, professional dress, and time management, just as James and Selena just went into. After pre-work, students are placed into a paid corporate internship where they work 8 to 12 hours per week from Monday through Thursday. These internships vary from law firms to banks and both federal and DC government agencies. Following their high school graduation, our interns are able to experience full-time work by logging up to 32 hours per week from Monday to Thursday. But throughout the entire program, interns continue to meet with Urban Alliance every Friday for continued workforce skills training and post-graduation planning. Overall, our GC students are able to work up to 600 hours and earn roughly $8,000 throughout their program. This is the truly amazing part of our program, as many students contribute their earnings to home or are saving for next steps. We're able to offer them paid work while still being a supportive learning environment. And then following the program, our interns graduate to our alumni program, where they're able to receive personal college and career coaching from our alumni team. James and Selena really talked about the impact that program has been for them. Even though I will touch upon this a little bit later, I don't want to forget two integral people that makes our program structure successful. First, our job partners designate on-site supervisors for our interns. We call these supervisors mentors because we truly understand the added responsibility and effort needed to bring a 17-year-old to your place of work. And finally, our Urban Alliance program coordinators are integral to this model, as they serve as case managers for not only a cohort of interns, but also provide support to the corresponding mentors.
Okay, thank you, Sahan. So we just went really deep, right? Probably not the best way to start off a presentation. Let's try to pick it back up. I want to ask a bigger framing question. What can we do to improve the chances that young people, after they leave our program, after they leave high school, are in a position to succeed in adulthood? One way to answer this is to think about the various pathways that anyone can take. You could focus on college. You could think about the schools and experience required to get that person into school. You could take the same approach for employment, right? We can design an intervention that focuses on resume writing and on interviewing. And for sure, there's a lot of value in that. I mean, we do both those things. But what about an approach, a singular approach that can work for any number of pathways? What about an approach that thinks about sustained success, not just initial enrollment or initial placement? There are a lot of our peer programs out there focusing on preparing students with in-demand hard skills. Our focus, on the other hand, is on developing a set of transferable employability or soft skills that are marketable in any industry, at any job. And there's a key reason for this. As a 17-year-old, as an 18-year-old, you're in school, you're close to finishing up. It might seem like you've done a lot, but there are a lot of options still ahead. You can choose to go to college. You can balance school and a part-time job. And when it's finally time to join the working world, either right after high school or later on after more education, there are lots of industries and sectors for you to consider. Some are probably not even going to exist yet. We want to develop skills that are going to be marketable and relevant across as wide a spectrum of options as possible. And despite the buzz and excitement that's being generated in the field, these skills that aren't really being fully developed in schools, at least not yet. And that's a problem, as the research shows us that these skills are incredibly important, not just for work, but for academic outcomes as well. I want to quote from A Nation at Hope, the groundbreaking report that came out of the Aspen Institute that Naveisha called out earlier. Young people who have stronger social, emotional, and cognitive skills are more likely to enter and graduate from college, succeed in their careers, and have positive work and family relationships. Similarly, employer survey after employer survey, including studies from McKinsey, the Wall Street Journal, Deloitte, and LinkedIn, all highlight soft skills as both a current gap and a future need. We're going to talk about how we develop soft skills through work-based learning. But I want to make sure we get everyone on the same page about what we're talking about. You've heard this term described a million different ways: soft skills, power skills, human skills. When looking into the research and at a number of established and respected frameworks, including ones from partners like CASEL, Child Trends, the Aspen Institute, this list in front of you are the competencies that are generally included. So we've defined the what of soft skills and the why, and I want to turn to the how. At Urban Alliance, we believe a well-designed, intentional internship is tailor-made for developing soft skills. Here's how. First, they specifically call out the skills that are required for success and build training around that. This may be hard for schools to do on their own, as these skills are largely seen as standalone competencies, separate from the core academic courses they tend to focus on. Training for internships can make the skill come alive by explicitly defining it and explaining how it is seen in the real world. So Lauren, today we're going to focus on accountability. Here are the situations when your adaptability will be tested at work. How might you respond? Second, they allow the young person to practice the skill in a real world setting. These interactions aren't scripted, they're not preset. They create opportunities for the young person to really show how the skill is developed, rather than just saying it back to you. They know what you want to hear. Internships also create chances for that student to observe these skills and practice from professionals who have already mastered them. And finally, they allow the young person to experience feedback loops. They can practice a skill, receive feedback and coaching, and get to try again. And last, internships are a steadfast method for developing soft skills because of how much they prioritize mentoring. Again, both James and Selena called this out a number of times. Having adults steer the experience, providing guidance and support, ensuring safety and inclusion is a critical part of learning. These adults are indispensable to a young person's development and are too often in short supply. Internships can bridge that gap. Okay, big picture stuff is done, Sahan. Let's dive back in, okay?
Yeah.
Tell us, you're running this program in DC. Tell us about what you've learned. Tell us how this actually works on the ground.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. As you had mentioned, and even James and Selena alluded to, it would be amazing if schools could facilitate such a program themselves. As a former teacher from a school that incorporated internships, I agree, it would be amazing, but it really boils down to a capacity issue. Even though some districts have cracked the code, adding the burden of preparing and supporting students for intensive internships can seem daunting when schools are already stretched with traditional academics, let alone the slew of supportive services around mental health, social work, and even housing. So how do we bridge this gap and add capacity? First, we are able to train and support the students. As a former science teacher, I wish I could have taken a break from DNA replication to review professional email writing and conflict resolution with my students. Therefore, this is where Urban Alliance can fill a skills development gap that the traditional school curricula has not addressed yet. Additionally, we can recruit these job sites. The capacity of burden to recruit, train, and support job partners falls squarely on us. And since we can dedicate the necessary time, we're able to get amazing internships opportunities for our students. Some of our DC students work at the National Museum of African American History and Culture, Bank of America, the World Bank, Marriott, Exelon, Department of Homeland Security, NASA, and Children's National Hospital. Our schools help us find amazing students for such sites, but asking them to take on sometimes onerous onboarding and background check processes for high security job sites can again strain school staff. Finally, we can protect our students by vetting internships. Even though there is plenty to be learned by more traditional manual labor jobs in high school, as I will always remember my busboy days, our goal is for students to experience work that could be a glimpse of a future career while also receiving meaningful on-site mentorship. Our interns step in and take on tasks involved with graphic design, event planning, presentations, and even help onboard and train full-time employees. Therefore, we make it a priority that all of our internships are giving our students the opportunity to truly join a team. Even though our model can easily be shown to add capacity to schools, building school relationships is not easy though. When I was on the other side in the school building, I was always skeptical of programs when they approached us. I always wondered, were my kids going to be truly supported? Will they work with us so we can ensure that the kids we see every day are successful? So how do we build these relationships and build this trust? I would boil it down to three main and simple characteristics. First, being present. When working with schools, it is integral to be present even when there is not direct benefit for your organization. Whether this means supporting our schools at block parties, homecoming football games, or attending parent nights and resource fairs, we welcome the offer to be a part of the school community. Number two, with this presence comes listening, which I like to say is more about being a true partner versus just a school provider. Sometimes school schedules are not conducive to our senior year high school internship program, but that does not mean we leave the school. If they wish to partner for other programming options, we still do. If they wish to schedule resume and cover letter writing workshops for their students, even if they're not in our program, we still do it. And even with our kids, we need to make sure we listen to the schools as they are the true experts on these students. When students are facing challenges while in their program, we contact our school champions and make sure to work together to support the student. For example, if a student's grades drop, we do not simply force them to choose between work and school. We work with counselors and teachers to make sure the student is primarily on track to graduate, and then communicate on the back end with job partners to adjust their work schedules if needed. Additionally, being a true partner comes with the ability to tweak our program if needed. DC Public Schools has recently introduced new workforce development programs for certain students. Therefore, we work with them to make sure that we reach different students with our programs. We want to work together to make sure as many students as possible are getting this integral skill development and don't fall in the trap of us competing for the same group of students. And third, finally, it is important to build multi-tiered relationships and champions with schools. It is imperative to build a champion at every single level. I just want to stress that point. We need counselors and teachers to identify the right students, but we also need to make sure to incorporate their advice and feedback with academic or social challenges a student may face. It is important for us to remember that we're meeting these young people at 17 or 18 years old. They have most likely been in school buildings for 4 years, and it's important to lean on that knowledge when necessary. We need administrators to support the demanding structure of our program to students and help communication with parents, while they are part of conversations to help us shape schedules. Our goal is that both Urban Alliance team and the front office of any partnering school building are completely aligned when it comes to our students. And finally, our district level relationships are important to align with citywide initiatives and to make sure that we are always creating additive programming to reach more students versus competing programming. And by showing true collaboration and support at every level, that's how we've been able to build a strong program in DC.
I love I love the callback to you as a biology teacher, and you're like, I wish I could have taken a break from teaching DNA, and I'm like, all your students are saying the same thing right now.
I know. They always wanted me to teach a life skills class. But now onto the job partner, the whole other side of this program. How do we recruit national corporations and federal government job sites to welcome 17 and 18-year-old kids into their office? First of all, we add capacity to organizations. Despite being high school seniors, our students are able to make a legitimate impact at their job site. As I mentioned earlier, students become true members of their teams when they join work. Many run and manage their own projects and tasks. Especially for partners like Martha's Table, who work with young people, our interns also added invaluable youth and local perspective to the work teams that they join. Secondly, with this capacity gain coming from young people, companies and organizations are able to develop their own workforce pipeline. Partners like the George Washington University Hospital are able to build a direct local talent pipeline and build interest in entry-level roles, while other partners are also making a low-risk investment in their future workforce by ensuring that the next generation has the skills needed to succeed at any professional workplace. Additionally, with the rapidly changing landscape of DC, companies and organizations recognize the increased importance of positively engaging in the community, and an opportunity to increase their own capacity while investing in the professional and personal development of a young person from their community can be an ideal option. Finally, most of our mentors or our on-site supervisors are younger in their professional careers. And our job partners see this as an amazing opportunity for their younger staff to develop management skills by supervising our interns. Especially since Urban Alliance mentorship comes with continued training opportunities and on-call support from our program coordinators, we're able to offer partners quite a robust management training program, even if it's not explicitly advertised as such. But something that I've recently learned, and a very important aspect of our program, is that we are the employer of record for all of our students. This means that all the responsibility of pay and liability insurance coverage is held by Urban Alliance, which I've been told is a relief for the HR departments of our partners. And finally, and something that James and Selena really touched upon, is the vital role of our program coordinator. Our program coordinator are our case managers and must work with all the adults in our interns' lives. Challenges will always arise during the senior year of a high school student, but the best way to support the student is proper coordination and strong communication with all the adults in a young person's life, such as school staff, parents or guardians at home, and their job site mentors. Our program coordinators are responsible to balance all these relationships and rely on strong communication with all of these stakeholders to ensure the student is supported throughout their senior year. James touched upon the fact that these coordinators are also really responsible to connecting them to other social services and making sure that all adults are really understanding of all the stresses that might be going on in a young person's life. So at the end of the day, the success of our program really boils down to these amazing members of our team.
So what did we learn? Sahan, you're very busy. I mean, that's like 1 million stakeholders to manage, right? Where schools, employers, staff, students, making all of this run smoothly is tough. I can only imagine. Thanks for doing this, and thanks for leading us through that. Lauren, you spend a lot of time helping Sahan or helping our team keep organized and make sure that programs are running like we think they should be running. What does that look like? What are some of the things you're learning?
Sure, yeah. So here at Urban Alliance, we are really fortunate to have a whole team devoted to performance measurement and evaluation. So while our students are in the program, we have a series of key performance indicators that we consistently track. Some of these are measures of dosage, including hours of internship experience and hours of training. We also use a series of surveys and observations to help us understand how youth are experiencing our program. And we work really hard to build in real-time feedback loops from our students to our program staff back to our students. And we purposely set aside time for continuous learning based on what our interns and mentors are telling us through the data. I regularly meet with Sahan and all of the regional program teams, and we use data to inform conversations around if our program is running the way it should. We can identify areas that are going really well and brainstorm around areas of improvement. And using these data, we're able to make real-time programmatic adjustments to make sure our interns are having the best possible experience with us. So in addition to tracking students while they're in the program, we use the National Student Clearinghouse and alumni interviews to track how our youth are doing after the program. And really because of all of this work, we know that 100% of our program alumni graduate from high school and 90% are accepted into college. We also know that 80% of our alumni enroll and persist to a second year. And finally, we know that 80% of our alumni are connected to a sustainable pathway one-year post-program. And really what that means is that our alumni are connected to something meaningful, whether that's college, employment, or even a training program. But really we wanted to take it a step further and have some external validation of our results. So we commissioned the Urban Institute in 2011 to conduct a randomized control trial on our high school internship program just in DC and in Baltimore. The results were pretty amazing. Because of the sophistication and the rigor of the study, we're able to conclude that these results are really only because of the high school internship program. They found that by participating in the program, there's an increased likelihood of young men attending college, an increased likelihood of middle GPA students, that group that Sahan was just talking about, enrolling in four-year institutions. And they also found that our participants had an increase in comfort and retention of soft skills over time.
And if you want to read the 200-page report at your leisure, go to www.theurbanalliance.org. Okay, so thanks for walking us through that. So what have we learned? That this combination of training, this combination of interning and mentoring does have a real impact on students, right? It has a real impact in the lives of what young people are doing after they leave us after high school. And it's backed by our own data, it's backed by the externally validated data from the Urban Institute. And still, I think there's an underlying piece here, Lauren, that it's actually a large reason that we're having this impact, a large reason that we're seeing results like this, is that developing soft skills through work-based learning, through interning and mentoring, can be really powerful and cause these kind of sustained results. But this is tough to do, right? How do you measure soft skills?
Yeah, so this is really important because social emotional learning right now is most commonly deployed in the classroom setting. So this was really huge for us to understand. The soft skills we've been focusing on already are really aligned with the frameworks that we see from Castle and Aspen Institute and Child Trends. So while internally we can think about social emotional skill growth with our young people from a more youth development standpoint and how it might affect their post-secondary outcomes, we can also help our youth understand how to navigate the workplace using these skills. And really only by testing these skills can we help our program staff develop action steps to really help our interns improve in these areas. And there are already a bunch of really great assessment tools out there to measure social emotional competency and skill growth, but they're really designed for the classroom setting and oftentimes for younger youth than our population. So the challenge for us and our team was how do we measure social emotional competency for young adults in a non-academic setting? So what we did was we developed an observational tool that our job site supervisors or mentors can complete 3 times a year. After observing their intern as a supervisor would of really any employee, mentors then answer questions regarding observable behaviors in the workplace. The evaluation team here at Urban Alliance then indexes these responses using a crosswalk to understand an intern's employability, skill growth, and social emotional competency. And what you're seeing right now is just a small sample from our crosswalk. So you can see how we work from a competency to a skill to an observation. And really through this tool, we're trying to make it easy for our mentors who are not necessarily youth development professionals to give us feedback on our interns' skill growth in a meaningful way. So for example, we used to just test if a young person is showing up to work consistently and on time. This is an employability skill, but for us, it's also an indication that a young person is exhibiting self-management, one of the social emotional competencies. What about writing a great email, like James was talking about earlier, or composing a compelling argument to your supervisor? That's also an employability skill, but for us, we see it as a social emotional competency of communication. So now that we have a tool to measure skill growth, I'm now turning my attention back to the internship experience. Earlier, I mentioned how we track hours, how many hours our interns work. And while having a target number is important, it's equally important that while the intern is at work, they're in an environment that's conducive to their learning, that they are being given tasks that allow them to practice working in teams and managing their time, solving problems, and communicating with adults. So in addition to piloting the tool for mentors, we also adjusted the survey that we distribute to our youth participants to measure if the tasks and the relationships and even the environment that they're in are conducive to producing the skill growth being tested in this observational tool.
So that's it. Zahan, Lauren, thanks for being here with me. Thanks for doing this with us. America's Promise, thanks for letting us share with you. We're excited about continuing the conversation here during the question period and also beyond. Please follow us at Urban Alliance. We're going to continue to put content out about soft skills, about work-based learning and internships. And so with that, we'll turn it back to the America's Promise team.
Thank you so much, Team Urban Alliance. That was incredible. We really appreciate the thoroughness with which you shared your program details and the level of impact. Very inspiring. And we're hearing lots of questions. We're going to try to get to maybe one or two of them, depending on how quick the answers are. And then what we can promise is we're going to copy these questions, share them with the team you just heard from, and then send an email to all the registrants so everyone can have access to all the answers and the recording. All right, so I'll leave this to the Urban Alliance team as to who jumps in on the answer. What advice would you give to an administrator who was interested in creating a program like this, like the Urban Alliance program?
I think for a school administrator to create a program like this, I think even when we're looking at new regions, the number one thing to do is, can you get a job partner who's going to be able to host multiple interns? I think that is the number one way to start a program, is finding the job partners. I think there is a lot of research out there that's being done by us and other people about what the curriculum could look like, the workforce development curriculum, what the soft skills that you should be focusing on, how do you build a supportive structure with a program coordinator, how do you train mentors. But none of that really happens without having set job partners. So I know even internally, when we're looking at new cities or new locations, it's about finding a few job partners who can host multiple students before we can even start looking into any other type of programmatic structure.
Yeah, I would add, I think underneath all that, Zahan, is understanding that finding job partners is actually a ton of work.
Yep.
Right? Finding job partners, helping support the job partner.
Mm-hmm.
You just need people to do it. We love the idea when districts if districts can do this on their own. We love if schools want to take this up on their own. In a lot of our cities, they're not doing that yet, right? And so partnering with a group like Urban Alliance who can help facilitate that can be really important. If Urban Alliance doesn't exist in your city, I think you got to think. I think if you're a school administrator, you have to think about, how do I build capacity within my staff, whose job it is to go out and sell this internship experience.
Yeah.
Thank you. Powerful advice. You mentioned this a little bit already in your presentation, but could you say a little bit more about the students who participate in the program and what opportunities are available for struggling students who might have personal challenges at home and elsewhere to participation?
Yeah, so just all students are welcome in our program. we do focus and tend to get selected and by our counselors to kind of push that middle level student towards us, but all students are welcome in our program. Our only stipulations are, can a student get out early enough? So do they have that early release schedule for them to get to their internship during the week? And are they on track to graduate? So if there are challenges going on at home or in other aspects of the student's life, all we do, we just want to work together. We want to make sure that the student is being supported. And that might sometimes mean like we're pausing from the internship while they work on something that's going on at home or at school if they need to take a break so they can catch up on their schoolwork. It's really about just clear communication with us so we can work with them. We don't ever force the student as they come in to tell us, hey, what's everything that's going on in your life? So we're aware, but if there is something going on, it's just good for us to make sure we're working with the counselors. If we need to be working with someone at home, that we're working with someone at home. Or we really do lean on our supportive social services partners that we have throughout every city that we work with. And I can speak specifically to DC. We have every single one of our program coordinators is given a whole booklet of organizations that we partner with. And it kind of covers every issue that may or may not be happening with the student. And we have numbers we can call immediately to say, hey, we have a student struggling with housing. Can you help the student find housing while they're going through the rest of their high school experience? So for us, we don't restrict it at all. We just, the more communication that we can have and make sure that they get the services that they need.
Yeah, and remember from Sahan's earlier point, the role of the program coordinator. Sahan manages all of the DC program coordinators. They are really the glue here. They work with the students not just on academic and professional issues, but any of the number of social issues that could come up. I think the other element that the program coordinator provides is they help explain what might be happening in the young person's life to the job site and to the job site supervisor, who may not have a lot of experience in youth development or might be pretty far removed from high school or working with high school youth. So that program coordinator, again, really brings everything around.
Yeah, and just to add, even during our internship matching process, we're really intentional about getting to know our students. Like that's a great added benefit of having, multiple weeks of pre-work is we really get to know the students fairly well and having close relationships with their counselors. So if we do know if a student has got a lot going on at home, for example, and they need a more supportive on-site mentor, we make sure they're at a job site that does have a supportive mentor that is not maybe a less independent role for them once they get there.
All right, thank you so much for those detailed answers. This is all that we have time for today, but we just wanted to thank all the presenters and the youth once again for a great presentation. You guys have provided such great information to our audience, and I think that they learned a lot. We hope that the audience enjoyed today's webinar and learned a lot about work-based learning, its importance, and how Urban Alliance is working to close these gaps that appear in helping our students have more success after high school. So again, thank you so much. And if you want to learn more about Urban Alliance or learn more about the Grad Nation campaign, here are the websites. You can go to urbanalliance.org to learn more about Urban Alliance, or you can go to gradnation.americaspromise.org to learn more about the Grad Nation campaign. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can definitely email us at gradnation90@americaspromise.org. Again, thank you for tuning in, and thank you to the presenters, and have a great day.